I know CoinGecko recently added support for tracking NFT prices across blockchains recently, and I'm kind of curious, how have you seen that shift in your business in terms of what data and information consumers want after this NFT boom? Is it still primarily tokens are the focus? Or are you seeing that shift happen to be really more focuses on NFT prices now?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. So I think historically a lot of trading takes place with fungible tokens. So it started out with centralized exchanges and then it moved on to decentralized exchanges. But I think sometime last year, we saw the NFT bull run take place, and then suddenly all of a sudden people are trading NFTs like they are trading fungible tokens. I guess we could say that we at CoinGecko were a bit surprised, caught up by surprise. I guess we knew the NFT is going to be big at some point, just didn't expect it to happen last year. So one of the things that we started doing this year is to actively start tracking the floor prices of the various NFTs in the market. At this point in time, we already we started tracking all the and most of the major NFTs on multiple different chains such as Ethereum, Avalanche, Polygon, Optimism, Arbitrum, and Clayton. We are looking to add NFTs trading on the Solana chain. And once we have that, we should be able to cover most of the NFTs traded in the major chains. I think there are multiple different facets with regards to NFTs. Obviously, the floor price is just one of the items. There are certain people that trades a certain kind of attribute on NFTs, and having that feature to filter, for example, an ape, a zombie punk, for example, would be pretty useful. That's not something that we do. Some people likes to see the rarity of the NFTs, for example, knowing how they are only like, for example, 10 zombie punks or ape punks would be pretty useful. But that's not something that we have yet on CoinGecko, something that we should be looking at, and hopefully we can add it in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's really more of like the OpenSea kind of focus, I'd say, versus yours right now. But interesting to hear that you're thinking about it. What are there any interesting takeaways that you've seen when diving into the data in terms of, I mean, are there certain chains that are growing faster than others? Or I feel like I hear a lot about how Solana has a really active NFT community and tons of transactions over there. Maybe the volume in a dollar perspective isn't as high, but the trading is much higher. Are you seeing any of that?
Yeah, Ethereum is the main chain for NFT trading at this point in time, but we do see some interesting activities happening on the Solana chain. I think the DGOTS guys are doing something really interesting over there. But I think in terms of volume, it's still quite a large gap to close with Ethereum, but something that we are monitoring very actively because there's quite a lot of trades happening on Solana.
Yeah. And in terms of the NFT use case, is it still like PFP season in terms of what's hot, or are you even seeing a different use case of NFTs being traded more, or maybe that's something that you haven't quite started to analyze yet?
We haven't really started analyzing or categorizing the NFTs yet, but I think PFPs are sort of like the first main use case for NFT collection projects. It's obviously one-of-one NFTs, which are kind of artworks or photographs, for example, as well. But for collections, PFPs are interesting. I mean, some of them grant their IP rights, some of them go for CC0. You get like free access, anyone's free access to kind of print. But I think interesting projects as well. I'm starting to see more people building like kind of like private members clubs. Kind of, you can think of it as like proof, kind of helping, like a members club, and then they provide research for users in their community, for example. Starting to see people trying to do that with in real life meetups as well. There are a bunch of people trying to do that in Asia as well. So I think it's still pretty much an experiment. Obviously, some NFTs are game assets, for example. NFTs representing digital land or digital real estate, for example, or like Axie Infinities. Axies are game assets, or Step N shoes. They are in-game assets represented as NFTs as well. So yeah, these are several use cases. Obviously, domain name or decentralized identity as well. So there are a few different use cases for NFTs right now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you bring up membership NFTs as potentially being, a trend we see more of. I saw something recently talking about this concept called other places, and that's things like coffee shops or parks, just libraries, places people go to hang out outside of just their house. And because of the pandemic and just the shift of how I think people interact, and with working from home being something that is so much more common now than it ever was before, like where you find your other places, I think that's going to be a lot more on the internet and in the form of like some of these membership groups. So how we see people use memberships to create more close-knit communities for people to be on the internet instead of just hopping on Twitter or hopping on Facebook where you're just in a news feed, right? You actually go somewhere where you can have a group. I do think that's going to be a rising trend as well. So very cool. We'll
for sure. And you can sort of imagine like library cards being tokenized and represented as NFTs. For example, you may want to have a library card or membership in this exclusive coffee chain, for example, where you get treated as a VIP. And one fine day, you're moving out of town and you don't really want this membership anymore. You can sort of sell it to your neighbor, for example, because these NFTs were easily transferable. Whereas at the moment, your Web2, you can't really transfer them easily. It just kind of goes to waste, for example. So there's all these things that can be done with NFTs.
100%. And when you are looking to sell it, you can track that price on CoinGecko, right?
Of course,
or the Coin Terminal, the Gecko Terminal.
You're listening to the Unstoppable Podcast, the go-to place for everyone to learn about the latest innovations in Web3, NFTs, and the decentralized web. Welcome to the metaverse.